Welcome, everyone, back to Double Take, an NFL podcast streaming everywhere you get podcasts and also on YouTube. I'm your host, David Gonzalez, here with a Week 5 preview with my very good friend, Steven Savage. How are you, man?
What's up, bro? How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Honestly, after last episode, we're just like, well, okay, so we're going to beat the Patriots. That's fairly easy. But last time we played the 49ers, we had Savage on. And I said, we need to have him back because it's 4 weeks. It's a decent sample size, but this week's going to be our big test. But I still wanted to get your thoughts on the Cowboys, on your Bengals. And even when we were texting last night about this episode, we said, okay, I think you said like, oh, I have some truthful takes ready to go.
I mean, that's all I have, honestly.
Yeah.
That's all I have to offer the podcast today is the truth. Nothing fancy, nothing crazy, just the stone hard truth right here. So
I'm excited. Daniel was supposed to join us this morning, but he's MIA right now. But if he hops on, we'll add him on to the episode when he gets on. But we're just going to go ahead and straight into it. This first segment is Cowboys talk. We're going to talk about the Dallas Cowboys. And so the Cowboys go to 3-1 as they beat the New England Patriots 38-3. The defense only allowed 53 yards on the ground after an abysmal 228 yards against Arizona. DaRon Bland had 2 interceptions, returning one of them for a touchdown. And Vander Esch even had a fumble recovery for a touchdown as well. Dak Prescott was efficient yesterday on Sunday. 28 for 34, 261, 1 touchdown, but had no interceptions again this week. Tony Pollard only had 11 carries for 47 yards, and Jake Ferguson led the team in receptions with 7 for 77 yards. And then you had CeeDee Lamb, a really quiet afternoon, only 4 receptions, 36 yards, but he did have that big touchdown just outside the red zone. And speaking of the red zone, the offense continues to struggle, going 1 for 5 in the red zone in touchdowns. But finally, we got one late in the game. So after hearing all of that, Savage, we beat down the Giants week 1, 40-0. Then we beat down the New York Jets 30-10. We do lose to Arizona, who is a scrappier, tougher team. Everyone thought that they were tanking, but they're still fighting and playing hard. We lose to them 16-28. And then we come back with this kind of performance in week 4. What are your just overall thoughts about these Dallas Cowboys?
My thoughts are Sunday taught me nothing about these Cowboys. If we play a sorry quarterback, we're probably going to win.
Yep.
If we get out to an early lead, it's hard for teams to catch up to us, especially if they don't have a good passing game. Dak is a good game manager. He's not a dart thrower, never really has been. But if you tell him, hey, the first guy who you see's open, give him the ball. Hey, if you see that guy's covered, look somewhere else. Find your check downs. If you give him a real simple color by number offense, he can run that effectively and efficiently and let our pass rush and secondary be the heroes of the game. Now, I think that's the way the Cowboys win. I'm a little nervous that they just seem to be a little one-dimensional in that sense. If you let a team get up on us and they can run the ball the entire game, it makes me really nervous about our chances of winning those games. But if we have to make them pass, I think that we can beat anyone in this league just because of how good Micah and those boys up front are. And soon to be Pro Bowler cornerback DaRon Bland is doing his thing. And so personally, when the Diggs thing happened, I wasn't that nervous because DaRon Bland was who was going to fill his shoes. And DaRon Bland's great. I love DaRon Bland.
Absolutely.
Obviously, you'd love to have Trayvon out there, still would love that. But if there's any team in the league who could lose their number 1 cornerback and be fine, it'd be us. So
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the offense for a quick second. These are just kind of my thoughts offensively. I mean, yes, you have. I mean, Dak has only thrown for 4 touchdowns this year. That's not fantastic. That's not great. Um, Especially when you're talking about a quarterback like Tua, who's just throwing the ball all over the field. But what I will say is different from this offense than last year's offense. You almost wish that you could take some things out of Kellen Moore's offense and apply it to this offense. And here's what I mean by that. I've never seen a Cowboys team, and I could be wrong. This could be recency bias, and check me if that's what I'm doing. But I've never seen an offense, especially against a team like the New York Jets, who were able to consistently go down the field every single drive and look dominant until we hit the red zone. Like against New England, every single drive that we had in the first half, we got into the red zone. We took time off the clock. Dak was efficient, was making great throws on third down. We looked great. We looked like a top 3 offense. But it's when we get into the red zone and I was even listening to our episode that we had last season, to where you said that the offense was ranked number 1 in red zone offense, having the most red zone touchdowns in the league. Man, that's been flipped this year. I felt like last year we struggled to really put drives together at times, but when we finally did and we got a drive going, we would score touchdowns. This year, we seem to efficiently and consistently make it all the way down to the red zone on every single drive, but we can't punch it in. What are your thoughts? Why do you think that this is happening offensively this year, of why we can't punch it into the red zone?
Yeah, I think I remember times when the Cowboys had struggled red zone offensively. I've always been the type that in fantasy football seasons, I draft the Cowboys kicker because I know he's going to get some play. Now, the last couple years, that has been different, which is was crazy. But I think a lot of that is because of you get down there in the goal line, you need someone that can punch the ball in. Whenever you have a whole lot of field to work with, you can run all these extravagant route patterns and, you can get some good spacing. When you're down especially within the 10-yard line, everything gets super tight and super pressed together. And it gets hard. You just need to be able to, organize all of the offensive linemen and, to make it to where you can move a pile forward. But we also had a guy who on Sunday had 6 rushes for 16 yards, looked absolutely just pedestrian. But for us, he might have that same stat line, but it would have 2 touchdowns next to it because you got down there in the red zone. You could just hand the ball off to Zeke. And Zeke would just plow through everyone and get a touchdown. Now, it's kind of like, you remember Marion Barber at the end of his career with the Cowboys? Like, if you needed 1 yard, Marion Barber would give you 2 yards. If you needed 3 yards, Marion Barber would give you 2 yards. All he was good for was hitting the line of scrimmage and falling forward. That's all he did. That's really all Zeke does at this stage in his career. But he would fall forward, and sometimes all you need is 2 yards. Now, I saw something at the end of last game. I've been thinking about this for a while. We have Zeke on the roster currently. Matter of fact, he's younger than Zeke. He's maybe stronger than Zeke. And he actually plays Zeke's position, not what he's listed at, but his true position, our fullback.
Yep.
Whenever
Keep talking.
Stuck within the 5-yard line, I don't understand why we just don't hand the ball off to 40 every play and let him just crunch forward. I think we have the makings of an awesome red zone offense. We just have to play according to our strengths. And our strengths are 40. I think he is our 3rd best running back on the team. I got you have, of course, Pollard. You have Dowdell whenever he's healthy. And then you have the fullback. Lepke, that's his name, right? Lepke.
Yeah, Lepke. Yeah.
So Deuce Vaughn needs to go find a different job. He's not an NFL player. I didn't think he was going to be an NFL player. I drafted him in the last pick of my fantasy football teams just in case. Awful pick, even in round 15. Dude can't play. So we need to really view Lepke as our red zone back. So you have him, and I've been on this. You can ask any of my friends. People make fun of me for this take. I don't care. What I believe to be a top 10 tight end in this NFL with T. Ferg. That bro is an absolute beast. And so what did we score in the red zone with last year? We scored on Zeke and we scored on Dalton Schultz. I just got to say, Ferguson is outright a better tight end than Schultz. Schultz has never jumped over a human. He had that one play where he swept the leg over the defender and kept on running. That really high point pass. As soon as the ball touched his hands, he took a huge shot to the chest, still held on to that thing. He is a awesome tight end. No one knows about him, though, because he's a second-year player. But I really feel like he can be our red zone threat. And then Shoemaker, that dude's looking good, too. So we have players that you can use. Mike just isn't calling plays for him. But if you were to tell me that going into week 5, what I'm most nervous about is red zone offense, I would be ecstatic if you told me that before the season, because we're going to be able to figure out red zone offense. Now, if you're saying we can't run the ball or we can't guard the pass or something like that, I'd be nervous. But punching it in within 10 yards, I'm cool with it. I think we'll be fine.
Yeah, there was a lot that you said that I absolutely agree with.
I'm here with the truthful takes.
My only thing is I'm not sold on Shoemaker. And the only reason why I say I'm not sold on him, it points to your Ferguson take. There was a play against New England inside the red zone to where Dak throws a perfect ball to Shoemaker and he drops it.
Yeah.
And even if you look at week 1, Dak throws it a perfect throw to Hendershot, who drops it in the end zone.
Right.
Inside the 20.
Torrential downpour in week 1.
Yes. Yeah. But also Henderson just has terrible hands in general.
Yeah.
But the reason why I say this is because 7 receptions for 77 yards, Ferguson can get you that all day, and most games he'll probably give you more. He just needs those reps. He needs those opportunities.
Absolutely.
And we saw against New England how Ferguson can be a playmaker and a game changer for our offense. I agree with you about Lepke. I don't know why we haven't been giving him the ball in the red zone. I feel like that's why he was on the team. He made the team, because in that final preseason game, a lot of us were saying, okay, it's going to be Vaughn, it's going to be Dottle, it's going to be Pollard. But Hunter played so well in that preseason finale and running people over. Isn't this why you kept him on the team? Isn't this why you have him in that fullback position who you can sometimes turn around and give him the ball? Like, that's why you have him on the team. And so when you're able to do that, man, you could just be so effective in what you're doing. But now joining us on the show, he is finally here. He has finally shown up. It is my co-host, Daniel.
The man.
He's here. So he's getting himself set up. And once he's ready to go, he'll give me the thumbs up and we can add him into this conversation. But like I was saying, like when we're talking about red zone offense and what this team can be, I absolutely agree with you. We just have to make those small little details. We have to just do those little things to be effective and to finally punch it into the end zone. And so I'm with you. Ferguson, he needs to be getting the ball more. Lepke needs to be getting the ball more. Once we do that, I feel like our offense will finally take off, because again, more than even last season, this Cowboys offense is getting to the red zone more often than teams past. And we just need to figure out how to score touchdowns. That's our only concern. But Daniel, you're here. We've just been talking about the Cowboys as a whole. Savage was saying, he feels good about this team. Dak is a very good game manager.
I said good. I do not say very good. A very good game manager is that guy in San Francisco.
I would say Purdy is elite. I would say Dak is great. Here's why I say that. And this, again, we're not going to get on this Dak Prescott thing because I feel like this is like whipping a dead horse. But I think like in Arizona, Dak was the only one who showed up in Arizona offensively. You had 3 offensive linemen out. You had receivers and tight ends dropping passes. Dak using his legs and converting big third downs. Like he was showing up and stepping up until that last
Red
interception that
zone
he threw
pick.
when the game was pretty much already over at that point. Like Daniel said it last week on the podcast. Like even if Dak scores a touchdown there, that game was already, the defense couldn't stop them running the ball, and all they did was just run the ball to run the clock out, and they couldn't stop them. So like I think Dak at that point was trying to make a play, was trying to force the ball, but the game was pretty much already, to me, I thought the game was over when they went for it on 4th down instead of kicking the field goal and they didn't get it. I already thought the game was over by that point. But yeah. I think, but Daniel, what do you think about this team heading into week 5 against San Francisco?
This game against San Francisco is going to be a huge, huge test because this is what my opinion of the Cowboys is right now. They're really good at beating up bad teams.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's what they are. You look at New York, you look at the Jets, you look at what happened in New England. New England's not a good team.
Yeah.
They're not a good team. For one, they didn't run the ball as much as I thought that they would. They didn't commit to it that much. And then Mac Jones, for one reason or another, like he's just not that guy. Just not that guy. Not even a game manager. He's not even that.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, what this team is it has a really good defense. It really does. The red zone is what has me concerned, is the fact that, hey, and I told you this last week, Dave, that won't beat San Francisco. It just won't. Mm-hmm. Dallas is incapable, and for some reason, of not scoring in the red zone. San Francisco is. And San Francisco, I feel like, and I know the past indicates differently, because I've heard that from different, analysts as well, of like, hey, like the 49ers, as much as they beat Dallas, they never do it by beating them over the head in terms of like, hey, they're not running for really big yards. They're not moving the ball that effectively, but they're doing just enough to win. I think what's going to be the test this week is, I agree with Savage. He's a good game manager. I don't know if he's great yet. But this week is going to tell us whether or not he's good or very good or even great. Because if he can do it against this type of defense in San Francisco,
I'm with you.
Go ahead.
Not that I disagree with you, but this is where I put Dak on the hot seat actually for this week. You can't be a game manager against the 49ers. Right. Like, I don't think he can be a game manager and beat the San Francisco 49ers, especially with how the 49ers have been playing all year this year. Like, I mean, some people are talking about Brock Purdy, C-Mac being in the MVP conversation at this point in the season. And
I don't see Purdy being in the MVP discussion. That's crazy.
I do. And the reason
I have
why
him more than Josh Allen for sure.
What?
Yeah, I have him more than Josh
Allen.
You
showed me 5 passes that Purdy's made that you were just like, wow.
You show me that. Show me one game that Brock Purdy has had as bad as week 1 for Josh Allen.
Look, I get that, but I'm saying I love watching First Things First.
Yeah.
And Nick Wright said something. I was like, bro, this dude is spitting facts. And he was like, people try to say that he's John Stockton. He's like, I think he's more Mario Chalmers. You land into the right spot and you just get the ball to the Hall of Famers on your team and let them take care of business.
Yeah.
Like, yes, that's like all these Purdy plays. He's giving the ball to guys in open space, and they're the one making the plays, which is why he is a great game manager. I can't go elite because I don't think he has an elite arm, but he's great, but
yeah,
game managing.
And even to go with your point, because if I'm nothing but honest and fair, there also has been throws that Purdy has made to where if Dak would have made those throws, those balls are getting intercepted. And there was 2 examples in the New York Giants game on Thursday Night Football to where Purdy throws it and he gets tipped, and that sucker was in the air for like 5 seconds, and his receiver just ends up coming down with it and taking off. So it's like I get it, but I do think that consistently Brock Purdy has been a better quarterback than Josh Allen has, because even when Washington were blown out by Buffalo, it wasn't because of Josh Allen. It was because of their running game being able to effectively get the job done. And you can say the same thing about C-Mac. I think for me, I would love it for C-Mac to be the front runner for MVP. I mean, it's a league dominated by quarterbacks. It would be great for running backs, especially when we're having the conversation about paying running backs what they deserve to be playing. Because apparently the quarterback position is the only position to where you can make $40 million and be terrible. Like, so for the fact that running backs can have an MVP type level, but they're still not getting paid, but that's an entirely different conversation. I do think that Savage, going back to what Daniel was talking about the red zone. I mean, we were talking before you hopped on of, they have Ferguson, they have Lepke, the fullback. They have weapons that they can do to score in the red zone. They just need to be utilized. And that's something that can be fixed. The question is, will it be fixed by the time that we play the 49ers? That's going to be the question.
Yeah. Can't wait for Pick'em.
Yeah, Pick'em's going to be great. So let's real quick, since we're still talking about the Cowboys, but let's now talk about the NFC East. Let's talk about Philadelphia, because they're the team that people are saying, it's going to be San Francisco and Philadelphia in the NFC Championship game again. The reason why I'm asking this is because Savage, last time that we had you on the show, you kind of said, hey, maybe I came a little too strong about Jalen Hurts in the playoffs, but this offense for Philadelphia hasn't been very good. And even the Eagles as a whole has not been they're undefeated. Granted, they're 4-0. You're playing Washington. You're playing,
almost lost to Washington in overtime, by the way.
Almost lost to Washington in overtime. Almost
the fighting
lost
Sam Howell's almost got him.
Who else did they almost lose to? Indy?
I don't remember.
I don't remember who they played, but they almost lost they've almost lost like a couple of games.
And then
they almost blew it to the Vikings.
Yeah,
who are not very good.
Kirk Cousins in prime time, and you almost lost.
Oh,
that should be a half loss.
They almost lost to New England, week 1.
Right, week 1. That's right.
Yeah. So they who have the quarterbacks they played? They played
Mac Jones, Kirk Cousins
in prime time,
Baker Mayfield, and Sam Howell.
I don't buy it, man. I don't buy it.
No, I'm with you guys. They can run the ball really well. They can. I think that's part of the reason why they're 4-0, because they can run the ball so well. Now, their defense is suspect. And David has been saying it for over a year now that, hey, this defense is really overrated. And they're still a good defense. Don't get me wrong. They're still a good defense, but they can be had. And I can't believe David was this much right on this particular subject. But you look at when Dak Prescott.
You're shocked. You're surprised.
I'm surprised. I'm not really surprised, but it's just I'm surprised on how dead right you are, like how really on that you're on. Whenever Dallas and Dak Prescott plays Philly, Dak always has their number. Will it be different with Mike McCarthy calling plays versus Kellen Moore? That remains to be seen. But
I don't think so.
They're not as invincible as, and I don't know if people believe that they are. I don't know. You guys watch way more different shows than I do. My circle, around my friends, Philly is waiting to be had. That's what we believe. Now, who's going to be the team that takes them out? I believe it's Dallas to do it just because I just up until the red zone, I love the way our offense runs. Up until the red zone.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a recipe that maybe Philly is not going to be able to handle.
Nope, they can't.
They won't be.
Nope.
And I feel like the league, not that they figured Jalen Hurts out, they found a way to slow him down.
Mm-hmm.
If you can stop
that good.
If you can stop that run and you can clamp up A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith, you might have something. And so that's what I think. That's what I believe about Philly right now. I feel like they're a team that can be had.
Mm-hmm.
Their defense can be a problem because look what happened in Minnesota. You know, before the defense really tightened up, Kirk Cousins was having a field day. If he just didn't turn the ball over, we're maybe having a different conversation. And so that's my opinion on the Eagles right now.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, like you guys said, and I've been adamant about this for over a year. Like, especially last year when the Cowboys lost to the Eagles earlier in the year, I went, if Dak Prescott's in that game, we beat Philadelphia in Philadelphia. He just dominates them. He dominates them. He shows up. He's not a game manager when he plays the Eagles. He carries the team when he plays the Eagles. And so, yeah, you're right. The Eagles are struggling, and Jalen Hurts, I mean, he's completing 67% of his passes, but he only has 5 touchdowns. He has 3 interceptions, and he also has a fumble loss. So he has 4 turnovers on the year. But he's also been sacked 11 times already this year. I think, and people said that I was crazy for saying this, but I here's where I think I'm dead on, and I've been dead on. You lose your offense and your defense coordinators, your team's not going to be the same. They're not going to be the same. So I think that's really what the problem for Philadelphia is this season, is that they just have not figured out how to put all the things together. But I also don't think that their offense is as good as it was last year because they're not surprised anymore. People know what to expect with them. And then the defense, like I said, it's overrated. They're also very good at, especially looking at last year, like, oh, we have like the number 1 defense. Yeah, it looks that way when 14 out of your 17 games in the regular season were against bad football teams with terrible offensive lines. Like, you're going to lead the league in sacks when you're playing bad teams every single week.
Yep.
And so I am also not concerned about Philadelphia. I'm actually chomping at the bit. How I felt about the Giants week 1 when people were telling me that, oh, the Giants are going to shock the Cowboys this week. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, it's like getting a buffet at Chick-fil-A or McDonald's and you have chicken nuggets. Like, you're just like, we're just going to be eating all night long. That's how I feel about the Eagles. Not saying that's not going to be a tough game because it probably will be still, but especially if we can figure out our red zone offense, like we're beating the Eagles 2 times, maybe 3 times in the playoffs. But let's go ahead and let's move on to, the biggest news from week 4. So we talked about this leading up to it. Savage says he can't believe what some people are saying, but we're going to talk about the Buffalo Bills. They beat down Miami 48-20. Josh Allen, so far this season, 74.8% completion percentage, has over 1,000 yards, 9 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Savage, I'm going to start with you, and then Daniel, you can take it from there. Are the Buffalo Bills the best team in the AFC?
Absolutely not. No. Let's stop being ridiculous, guys. How many years are Buffalo going to trot out in the beginning of the season, look really good, And then by the end of the year, everybody, oh, Josh Allen's the MVP. Oh, that defense is looking great. Oh, can you believe Bill Burr's their head coach? He's doing fantastic. Oh my gosh, this team's winning the Super Bowl. Guys, they have not even made it to the Super Bowl in who knows how long. Has Josh Allen even made it to the conference final yet?
I think he did one
He
year.
did 1 year
Okay,
against
1
Kansas
year.
City.
Lost. Okay. Last year, I'm old enough to remember, personally speaking, Joe Burrow going into Orchard Park and giving them the business. Okay. I don't know how many times we're going to show up every year. Oh, the Bills look great. The Bills, and I know that this take isn't going to sound good now. But when this season's done, I want you to bring me back on this podcast.
Yes, sir.
So that I can say that I was absolutely correct in this. The Bills aren't the best team in their division. Assuming Tua stays healthy, the Dolphins win the East. I predicted that before the season started. And that's a big thing to say Tua stays healthy. I get it. But guys, the Bills always look good in the beginning of the year. The Bills have never had a slow start with Allen. But no, they're not the best team. First off, you have the Chiefs. Okay? Yep. Until you beat them in the playoffs, they're the best team that's in the AFC. Okay? Secondly, you got to beat the Bengals in the playoffs for you to say you're better than them. And you haven't done that. Now, will the Bengals even make the playoffs? Who knows? We'll talk about that here in a little bit. There's a lot of people saying some ridiculous stuff about Joe Shiesty, and they need to get some respect on that man's name. Okay, but we'll talk about that here in a little bit. I think, honestly, by the time the playoffs come around, they might have to see Jacksonville. I'm not sure how they're going to do against them. If Lamar stays healthy, I think the Ravens might be better than them. I mean, CJ Stroud's looking. No, I'm joking. I ain't talking about the Texans, but I'm just saying there are a lot of teams in the AFC that are good, and the Bills are one of the good teams. But we got to stop it, man. I'm tired of all when you sent that question in the text that you sent me about what to get ready for this show, I put my phone down. I was like, you got to be kidding me. Like, that we're having to have this conversation every single year. Oh, the Bills choke. They're choking dogs. There's no pressure right now. They lost to the Jets, dude. Zach Wilson beat them head to head. And I'm telling you right now, Josh Allen, when you need him most, is one of the best bakers in America, but he specializes in turnovers. He's a turnover machine. He just sending them apple turnovers. A great turnover I saw make some apricot turnovers. All he does is turn over the ball. So I don't believe in the Bills. I don't think the Bills are going to be great come playoffs. As a matter of fact, I guarantee they don't make the conference championship game, and they might not even win a game in the playoffs. But that's just me.
So, Savage, I agree with almost everything that you said. I do think it's funny what people try to do. They try to be slick, Savage. They try to be slick. Because the talk about last week, the past couple of weeks is like, is Josh Allen done? Are the Bills done? Are they still the same team that's been?
We talked about it.
And then you turn around, they win one game against Miami, and then they're like, "Oh, this is the best team in the AFC." Now, that's the reason why it's ridiculous. Now, had no one been pushing that narrative that the Bills are done, that Josh Allen is done, he's not going to be good anymore. Had they not said that, then this is an actual conversation of like, "Hey, are they? Can they be?" But the fact that the flip is just so much is a problem. And for me, it's my problem with Josh Allen has always been the same. I hate his play style. I just hate it. For me, as a fan of the game, someone who watches, and having friends who are Bills fans, one thing they always say is, man, if he could just just be careful. Just be careful. Not even with the ball, but with yourself. With yourself, be careful. And for me, I've never liked that. I'd never liked the way that he's played. And then I don't think, like you said, Savage, will that beat Cincinnati when they're at their peak, when Joe Burrow is healthy? Will that beat him? No, because Joe Burrow plays the opposite way. And then when you get to the postseason, there is something to be said about the moment. Can you play in the moment? And the last time that he was able to do that was in the AFC Championship game against the Chiefs, because or was it the game before or was it the year before?
It was the year before. It was the year after the AFC Championship game. They met again in the divisional round to where they had that shootout.
Great. But ever since then, he's never been able to put a game even close to that. And what me and David do, and Savage, I'm sure you're the same way, you have to update your resume. Meaning, we're not going to go to your highest point of your career,
which was in 2020,
to dictate what you're going to do in 2023. What we're going to do is we're going to look at 2022, and then we're going to base our opinion off that. But a lot of people, they like to do the opposite. They like to look at, like, David's not this extreme, but a Dak Prescott enthusiast will go to maybe 2016 or to even 2021 against the Seahawks to indicate, hey, he's more than a game manager. He can win us a bunch of games. But that's not what we do here. We like to deal in what's happening right now. And right now, the story is, like you said, they had the opportunity to make a statement against the Jets. Aaron Rodgers goes down. It's Monday Night Football. The lights are out. It's your time to make a statement to the league. The Buffalo Bills are the number 1 team in the league. And they sold. Offensively.
He sold.
Offensively. And so for me, I agree with you, Savage. I think let's pump the brakes. Let's calm down. They beat Miami. Great. Miami can have a bad game. All we know about Miami is that since the year has started, their offense has been a top 2 offense, maybe the best offense in the league. And they can have a bad game against a divisional opponent away. It can happen. Let's not totally give up on Miami, and let's not dismiss Baltimore. That's what I would ask people.
Yeah. So I'm just going to highlight a couple of things because you guys said most of what I was going to say anyway. A friend of mine, Carter Paul, who's going to be listening to this episode, he texted me on Sunday because he's been talking about the Buffalo Bills, because I was saying Miami, they look like the best team in the AFC. You know, they dropped this game 48-20, and he was texting me. He's just like, man, I wonder how you're going to like cook that crow. Like, are you going to bake it in the oven, or are you going to fry it, whatever it looks like? And I said, hey, listen, come talk to me again when January comes, because that's when Josh Allen is going to show you who he has been. And I mean, let's give credit to Josh Allen. I mean, he's beat some really incredible football teams in this 3-week run. Here's who he's beaten: Las Vegas Raiders, the Washington Commanders, and yes, they beat Miami, who is still a young, inexperienced football team who probably needed to be humbled anyway, and they got humbled on Sunday. I mean, this is a team who is barely figuring out how to win games and to handle their own success. And so they were probably feeling themselves anyway, and they've just needed to be reminded. But 2 out of the 3 games that they played, he played against not great football teams. I mean, do we think highly of the Las Vegas Raiders defense? Have we ever thought highly about the Raiders defense in the last 5 years? Like, no, they've always been like a bottom defense in the league. And so 31 for 37, 274, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions.
It was great for my fantasy, no doubt. Great for my fantasy.
Yes. Yep. He's my quarterback too. So,
But then you go to the Washington Commanders. They win 37-3. Oh man, what a great win against Washington. 20 for 32, 218, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Did also run for a touchdown, but like I said, the ground game was responsible for that, not necessarily Josh Allen. Then he played extremely well against Miami. Not going to take anything away from him. But like you guys are saying, like I need to see Josh Allen play well in the playoffs because everyone likes to say, "Oh, he went to the AFC Championship game." Like he went up against, Patty Mahomes. These were his numbers in that playoff game, in that championship game against Kansas City. His numbers were 28 for 48, 287, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, which was a career pick in the red zone. And they lost 38-24.
It's a fine game. It's not great. It's not great. It's not bad. But it's not, something that I think people need to look back on and be like, remember 38 years ago when he did this?
Yeah. It's not a game that you bring up to show, hey, he's ready for the moment. It's not. Mm-hmm. Even for the team as a whole, because you're like, what? They're capable of giving up 38 points in a big game? Is that defense going to be good enough to do that? That's where I would sit on that if you're going to bring that game up. It's like, no, not a game you want to bring up to show that you're capable as a team.
And so I think with Buffalo, they're 3-1. Kudos to them. But you can't ignore the New York game either. Josh Allen's going to give you some of those games. And especially in recent years, those have been games that have cost their team. And that's cost them in the play. Like, to me, Daniel, you talk about moments. Like, you got to have moments in the playoffs. Well, Josh Allen does have a moment last year. It's when he's on the sideline and Stephon Diggs is like, what are you doing?
He did that Jesus statue in Brazil, too.
Yeah.
He had the same pose as that statue.
And so, yeah, am I eating crow this week because I said that Miami was a better team? Yeah, sure, absolutely. But I know that Josh Allen is not going to let me down in January. I know that 100% for a fact. So let's pump the brakes on Buffalo. Let's wait for them to actually do something in the postseason before we start crowning them the best in the AFC. Like Daniel said, I like how Baltimore looks defensively, offensively. I think they're still trying to figure things out offensively. New OC, all that kind of stuff.
But the thing about Baltimore is, like, you have a guy in Lamar Jackson who, hey, if the offense isn't running how it needs to be, he can still run and get you 150 yards and score. That's the best thing about Lamar Jackson and that offense is, if things can't be figured out, they still have a guy who can go get you points. Mm-hmm. And that's always going to be valuable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So now, Savage, we're going to transition into this topic. I am asking the question just because we know that you're Joe Burrow's biggest supporter to your ties to LSU.
Go Tigers. Had a tough
but they're 1-3 at this point in the season. Joe Burrow, an injured Joe Burrow, I may add, who was not 100% healthy when the season started, has completed only 57.6% of his passes, has only thrown for 748 yards, only has 2 touchdowns, but only has 2 interceptions, and he's been sacked 8 times so far this season, not including hurried throws, per drop back, those kinds of things. This offensive line, Orlando Brown has been a terrible disappointment for the Bengals. But Savage, talk to us about this narrative about Joe Burrow getting paid, all this stuff.
I'm going to turn my mic off, Savage, because I'm going to just sit back and just let you go.
You take it away.
I'm turning off my mic right now.
Yeah. You take it away. Tell us, are we too concerned about Joe Burrow and the Bengals? Should we?
So I'll just start by quickly dismantling the whole he got paid and now he sucks. That's ridiculous. Okay. Him getting paid, it's the exact same team they had last year. Okay. So it's not usually when people make that argument, what they say is that, well, we had to pay Joe Burrow, and because of that, we couldn't afford to keep T. Higgins. We couldn't afford to keep, we had to pay Jamar. So we have other weapons that had to drop down. T. Higgins' money comes up this offseason, right? So him getting paid, they did not have to let go of any valuable offensive pieces this year for them to be able to keep Joe Burrow around. Now, next year, that's when things start to get interesting. But for right now, what we're seeing from Joe Burrow today has nothing to do with his pay. What it has to do with his calf. His calf hurts. And when you play quarterback, you have to plant on your foot and throw the ball. His calf is strained. Now, Joe Burrow's tough as a $2 steak, so he's sticking in these games. But I'm not even frustrated at Joe Burrow right now as much as I'm frustrated at Zach Taylor. Why is Burrow in these games? Honestly, if he's hurt, he has to sit. And Burrow is the type of guy that he's going to want to play through whatever. He's going to play through it. He's I'm fine, coach. I'm fine. At practice, they're saying, like, oh, he doesn't have any more restraints even at practice. Sure, I'm not saying that he does. But just because he's not soft doesn't mean he's not hurt, okay? He's injured. Sit him out for a couple weeks before he does something really bad to his leg. Okay, Joe Burrow has some injury history when it comes to his legs. He's not the healthiest quarterback. He's starting to flirt with being injury prone. And so you would think any other player who is what you put your whole franchise on, if he's looking hurt, you rest him, because right now I feel like Zach Taylor thinks that this is the last NFL season ever. Because if they don't win it now, next year the NFL's just leaving. That's not the case. You have to start thinking long term with this quarterback, especially when you paid him that money, which he is completely deserved. But to say that he's lost it, no, he hasn't lost it. He's just hurt. He needs time to heal. He needs time to recover. And here's the deal. You might have to let go of T. Higgins. Sure, next year they might not have the money to be able to keep him and to keep, Jamar Chase, whatever, cool. But if you sit out Joe Burrow for, let's say, a month, because calf injuries take a long time to heal, you sit them out, they might lose the next 4 games. They might be 1-7 in a bad spot. They still have their pick. And I'm not sure if it's not better long-term for the Bengals to have a really down year this year, go out and draft an offensive lineman to replace that terrible offensive line they have, maybe even try to trade T. Higgins before the deadline to get another decent pick, and try to package up an offensive line next year to where Joe Burrow's not getting hurt in camp. Now, at camp, it was a weird injury. It wasn't, something happened. But still, when you have an injury-prone-ish quarterback like that, you need to really invest in that offensive line. And I think they might have an opportunity to do that this year. If you land a high-caliber left tackle in this upcoming draft, I think a lot of these problems are gone and will never come back. Joe Burrow's famous for saying his Super Bowl window is his whole career. I agree with that statement. I'm worried his career might get cut short because of injury, though. Secure that offensive line, give him time to heal. He'll be fine. That's where I'm at on Joe Burrow. You can plug your microphones back in. Let's do it.
I'm with you, Savage. The only thing that I may differ than you on is the fact that I believe the amount of money and how his contract is structured right now, he should have done it like Patrick Mahomes. That's what I believe, because you give room for the excuses to be, hey, Joe Burrow took all the money. Now they're not going to be able to re-sign anyone. His team is going to be garbage for the next 10 years. That's the only thing for me I thought Joe Burrow should have done in his contract, to give the Bengals more liberty to pay more people. But this excuse of he got his money, now he's just going to relax and he's not going to work hard and he's going to suck. You can assign that to maybe Daniel Jones, but not to Joe Burrow. Because Daniel Jones, for all intents and purposes, is healthy. And he's playing like garbage. And he even has Brian Daboll throwing tablets and being like, man, what are you doing? Challenging on the sideline.
I love it.
But the thing about Joe Burrow is, and David can verify this, I said this in the beginning of the season. He should not have played the first 4 weeks. What would have been best for him was to not play, get 100% healthy. Does he still get hurt? Maybe during, like, if he comes back this week, maybe. That's because this offensive line isn't very good. But it's different. What I feel like is happening right now is people are giving Joe Burrow the Baker Mayfield treatment. And this is why I would say that. When Baker Mayfield got injured in week 2, the year after he had that special season, he still continued to play. And what happened was he put bad tape out there and bad games out there. Then the narrative kind of switched on him to, hey, Baker Mayfield may be coming. This might be his breakout year. This is a year that he's going to put it all together, build off what he did last year, and lead the Browns somewhere. He gets hurt, continues to play through that injury, and the narrative changes on him. To where, like, hey, is he even a starter in this league anymore? Is he any good? Now, do I think that it's going to get that extreme for Joe Burrow? No, I don't. But what I'm saying is the narrative started getting changed and people are putting idiocies out there. Now we see what Baker Mayfield is doing now. You know, he's playing better. He's with the team that's at least something. He's healthy, whatever. I believe Joe Burrow just needs to get healthy. Put a better offense line around him, and I feel like they could turn it around. But it does look bad that, and I'm with you 100%. This is 100% on Zach Taylor. You have the authority to get him out, to say, I know you want to play, but I'm not doing it. We have 10 years left for you to be this elite Hall of Fame type quarterback. I'm not going to let you mess it up for a season that we're already starting 1-3, and it's going to probably be difficult for us to get into the postseason. I'm not letting you do that. If I'm Zach Taylor, I'm sitting Joe Burrow until he's 100% healthy. That's on 100% on Zach Taylor.
I guess here's why I think, like, the narrative of him taking all the money is stupid. Because you're talking about, you know, now you can't pay all these players, you know, to keep up. They've never had an offensive line, which is on management. It's like this to me. I think this could very well be more like Andrew Luck, who was a very, very good quarterback, was leading the Colts to 11-5 records, you know, surpassing expectations for them. Like he was the reason why they even won 11 games and were in the playoffs for most of the time. But management never gave him an offensive line until it was too late. The same thing. I'm scared that the same thing is going to happen to Joe Burrow, which is why I was kind of concerned. Why I was like, man, I wish that he wouldn't have signed the contract. And the only reason why I say this is because now he's stuck with Cincinnati, who for some reason can't figure out how to give him an offensive line and put him into positions to have a long career. That's what I'm afraid of. I would have preferred him say, no, I'm not going to take the money. His contract runs out and he says, I'm going to go somewhere else. Now, it's Joe Burrow. He's always going to be loyal to the teams that he's on and believes he can, like Savage said, his championship window is his entire career, and he can do it anywhere because he did it in Cincinnati. The difference between Baker Mayfield and Joe Burrow is that Joe Burrow has made it to the biggest game. And like we said, if he would have even had a decent offensive line, probably would have beat the Rams.
He was like 3 plays away from it.
And then, and that was while being the most sacked quarterback in the regular season and postseason combined. Then you go to the following year, he goes back to the AFC Championship game with still a bad offensive line and is 1 or 2 plays away from going back to the Super Bowl. Then you have the strained calf to where, I mean, I'm sorry for always bringing him up, but when Dak was having that huge season 2 years ago and strained his calf, he didn't look the same for the rest of the year. So that's a big injury that has affected quarterbacks in the past, that unless you're 100% healthy, you're going to be compromised. But I also am not sold on Zach Taylor as a head coach. Like, Savage, I could be not speaking correctly. And again, check me as always. But Joe Burrow was the biggest reason for LSU's success, not Big O. I think Joe,
in the sense of on the field, yeah,
Coach O, in terms of execution. Coach O gets the credit in the fact that Joe Burrow originally did not want to go to LSU. He went there on a visit, okay, yes.
And he was like, "I'm not doing it." And he said, "But I want to eat some Cajun food before I leave." So they went to this restaurant, and Coach O called in his own guy to bring a bunch of crawfish in, like just some backdoor crawfish salesman came through, laid out the whole display on the table, and Coach O in that dinner meeting got Burrow to LSU.
Right.
But from the X's and O's standpoint, that was never Coach O's thing. He was just a motivator.
Yeah. And that was my thing. But I don't even think Zach Taylor is even the motivator. Like, I think Joe Burrow has carried Zach Taylor. I don't think Zach Taylor has a success that without Joe Burrow. I don't even think he sniffs the playoffs without Joe Burrow. So to me, that's the big concern for Cincinnati. I don't think that they have the coaches, the management to give Joe Burrow what he needs in order to get to where he wants to go. But Joe Burrow is going to try and take him as far as he can, and it's going to be a lot farther than any other quarterback could in his situation. Which I think why the narrative of, oh, Joe Burrow took the money and ran, absolutely. Like, you can't look at the facts of management never giving him an offensive line, Zach Taylor being an average coach at best, the strained calf, and think that Joe Burrow is the problem. Period.
Absolutely.
Well, as we now, we added one more segment. This is going to be the longest episode we have, but I'm here for it. Just really quickly, Savage, obviously you first. Who is the biggest success this season, but also the greatest disappointment this season, in your opinion?
So I would say in terms of the biggest success story that we have in the NFL right now, I do not think that there is a second option to this question. I think it has to be McCaffrey. That dude is making people think Brock Purdy's a top 10 quarterback in this league. That guy is making people all of a sudden think, well, Brock Purdy hadn't lost a game in the NFL. I wonder why. It has to be McCaffrey. I think Shanahan, just like you're salivating over the Eagles, he's salivating over our run defense. If I was a Vegas sporting book, I'd probably put the over-under for rushing yards at $175 for McCaffrey. I think he is a beast as long as he stays healthy. Now, he is injury-prone, but he hasn't been as of late. So that's what I would say is the biggest success story of the NFL this year. The biggest letdown, and I'm so happy to be saying this, and I've been right since the moment they drafted this guy, is Daniel Jones. They just gave him the Dak Prescott treatment. 4 years, $160 million. And this dude, he looks like, I saw this meme a couple years ago, and I've stuck with it since. He looks like if you were going to make a movie about Eli Manning's life, the person who you would cast to play Eli Manning. You know, like he kind of looks like him, even like the facial expressions he makes, where he just like, I mean, he looked like he's just always in a daze, not sure what to do, overwhelmed, stressed. And I love it because he's the Giants quarterback. I would say he's the biggest letdown. Personally, I couldn't imagine giving him that kind of bag, but now we get 2 free wins each year. So, which we've always had it, but now it's like even more costly for them. So that, in terms of individual players, that's what I would say is the biggest success and the biggest letdown so far.
I think we all can agree the biggest disappointment this year has been Daniel Jones and the Giants. I think for us, that's the consensus. So I don't need to go into that. Savage, for the same reasons, I'm not going to edit anything that you said or add to anything you said about Daniel Jones. Now, for me, it's not like the biggest success, but something that needs to be said. Because what I don't want to do is I don't want us to all have the same thing. So I'm going to say something different just for the sake of saying something different. Mine is Brock Purdy. And here's why. Here's why. Not because he is carrying the San Francisco 49ers. It's not anything like that. It's just because the amount of this happened in the offseason about Brock Purdy, about, hey, he might not play this year. Trey Lance might get this job back. Sam Darnold might be the starter for this football team. Is Brock Purdy going to have a sophomore slump? Is he going to get exposed as a one-hit wonder? All those things were being said about him before the season even began. And what he's proving is that what we saw last year is probably going to be his story for the rest of his career. Give him a run game. Give him a defense. Give him weapons. And he'll win you games.
That's every quarterback in this league.
It's not, because Jimmy G couldn't do it. Jimmy G, and David has said this too. Jimmy G is the reason why the 49ers did not win the Super Bowl. Because when he missed Emmanuel Sanders, they could have won the Super Bowl had he been able to make one throw. What Sam Darnold, what Jimmy G, what Trey Lance all have in common is when you need them to play well, they cannot. What Brock Purdy has the opportunity to do is to be given that same opportunity, but actually get the job done. That's what he has the ability to do. And what we've seen from Brock Purdy is he runs the offense better than Jimmy G has ever had, better than Sam Darnold could ever run, or what Trey Lance has the potential of doing. And the narrative about Brock Purdy is that he's a one-hit wonder and he's going to suck. And he hasn't.
No, he hasn't.
He's a guy who, yes, he is a game manager. He can manage the game. But he's also very ambitious. He'll gamble. We saw a little bit last year. There were some throws that he was making where he's just like, man, I wouldn't make that throw, but it worked. And isn't that what the greats do? And I get what you're saying about his talent. But let me remind you, Joe Montana wasn't the most talented quarterback. That's the reason he went in the 3rd round. He was accurate. He knew how to run Bill Walsh's offense. They had a run game. They had Jerry Rice. They had one of the greatest defenses that a quarterback can have over a 10-year span. And he won games. And he had moments that made him the greatest quarterback who ever played. Not saying Brock Purdy can be that, but he has the opportunity to be. We just need to see him do it. And from the injury that he just recovered from, he's played well in that. And for me, I think that alone is a success for this year. That's the only way why I'm saying that, because of the injury and because he was able to bounce back from that, and with all the noise surrounding him coming into this season.
Can I just...
Yes, go ahead.
So I agree that he is playing better post-injury than I thought he would. But Did you just invoke Joe Montana in a segment talking about
I
Brock Purdy?
was like, okay, I'm with you. And then you said Joe Montana, and I was like,
The only reason why I invoked his name is because they play in a similar offense, and the team structure is the same. That's the only reason why I brought him up. Now, I literally did say, "Hey, I'm not saying he's gonna be Joe Montana, but I'm saying the situations are very similar. They really are."
yeah, but I guess what I would say about why I wouldn't invoke Joe Montana's name is because even with Jerry Rice, even with the offensive line, even with the offense, even with the defense, like it was always Joe Montana that was making the plays in the game, displaying his arm talent. Because yes, was he like a running quarterback like Lamar Jackson, or I mean, he's like Joe Montana was the reason that he went. You look at that Miami Super Bowl that they played against, like he picked them apart, like absolutely picked apart that Miami offense without Jerry Rice. Then he goes to Kansas City
what you're
in his
forgetting
first
is that-
season. No, wait, hold on. He goes to Kansas City in 1993, immediately takes him to the AFC Championship game, and if the Buffalo Bills do not knock him out, he probably goes to the Super Bowl again, and that's without Bill Walsh. That Kansas City team was nowhere near the San Francisco 49ers. That's the difference. I don't think that if Brock Purdy goes to another team that he has the success that he has in San Francisco. Because Debo, I mean, a lot of his plays, a lot of his big plays, even if you go against like the Dallas Cowboys in the divisional round last year, I mean, that big throw to Kittle, that was all Kittle. That should have been intercepted. But Kittle was the one who grabbed it out of the air, made somebody miss, and takes it down the field. You have Trayvon Diggs drop an interception in the red zone that was dropped perfectly into his lap. Like you have those. So I can't go Joe Montana. And especially when you look at C-Mac and how he's played, how like if Dak Prescott had C-Mac, he would probably be in the same conversation that you're having Brock Purdy in right
Daniel
now.
Jones would be 3-1 with this team.
David, here's my rebuttal to your Joe Montana thing. Okay. Every team that you just mentioned, you're talking about that Miami game in the Super Bowl,
right?
He had a Roger Craig. Roger Craig ran for 100 yards, caught for another 75, and he had the #1 defense in the league. You talk about all his years in San Francisco. From 1981 till he finished, that defense was a top 5 defense every year. When he went to Kansas City, who did he have in Kansas City? They got Marcus Allen, who revived his career, was running and catching the ball for a bunch of yards, and they had Derek Thomas in that defense. What I'm saying to you is, yes, Joe Montana is the guy. He made it all work. He made it all come together. But what was common for Joe throughout his entire career was he had a great run game and a great defense. So that's why I'm saying that's why the situations are similar, because that's what Brock Purdy has. He has C-Mac. He has Elijah Mitchell. He has Deebo Samuel. He has George Kittle. He has a great defense. And that alone is enough for him to manage the game, make plays when he needs to, and can win multiple Super Bowls playing that way. That's all I'm saying.
But he hasn't won anything yet. Like you said, like you put
he's been in the
Sam Darnold in there.
You can't do that. He's only been in the year for 1 year, and he got
which is why you can't invoke Joe Montana's name, because he's only played 13 games.
And Daniel,
I get that, but in every game that he's played well.
Okay,
So you can't. There's nothing to knock him on just yet. But what I'm saying to you is, I think what you guys are doing is you're thinking I'm putting him in the same level as Joe in terms of like all-time greatness and what they're able to do. The only reason why I invoked his name is because they both were never the most talented player, but they played smart, and their situations are similar. That's the only reason why. David, you know this. I would never invoke Joe Montana's name because I believe Joe Montana is the GOAT. But the reason why I brought up his name is because their situations are similar, and I can see the potential for him having a trajectory arc similar to him.
I just don't get how you said – I don't get how you – but here's what you said in your initial talk about him is that you said, you put Trey Lance in that offense, you put Sam Darnold in that offense, you put Jimmy G in that offense, they don't deliver. My question is, what has Brock Purdy delivered? I know that Jimmy G may not have won a Super Bowl, but he sure went to that bad boy a couple times, right?
Do you believe he would have beat Philly had he been healthy and played in that game?
No.
I do.
I don't.
I don't. So
I do.
And here's what I say. Like, when it comes to what has Brock Purdy done, he's done more than a lot of quarterbacks still in the NFL. Like, every game that he has started and he has finished, he has won. And he has not played awful. You could look at some games and be like, he wasn't great, but there was never a game that you could say you can't even say that we lost with Brock Purdy. Like, you can't say that. So that's where I'll give Brock Purdy some credit and some praise. I don't think he beats Philadelphia, but you misquoted me. I never said that the only reason why the 49ers lost in the Super Bowl against Kansas City was Jimmy G. You said that. What I said is that the reason why the San Francisco 49ers will never win a Super Bowl is because of Kyle Shanahan. He's a great coach until he gets to the Super Bowl. Because, again, he was the same coach who blew a 28-3 lead against the New England Patriots. He was the Falcons' offensive coordinator. I think there's more question marks about Kyle Shanahan than Brock Purdy. I just think that when we're talking about Brock Purdy, let's be careful about invoking those names, because even though you're saying like they're in similar situations, Joe Montana is far more talented of a quarterback than Brock Purdy, because I saw him play at Iowa State. I saw him play in college. And I've seen him play against the New York Giants and should have had 2 interceptions that were miraculously caught.
I remember a year where Joe Montana had 8 touchdowns, 9 interceptions in a season.
It was a strike season. It was a strike. What you can't bring that season in there.
But
he didn't even have any of his players.
But I've also seen Joe Montana throw 3 interceptions in an NFC Championship game
and still won.
It happens. You have moments. That I know, but to say that's a reason for you to have concern is stupid, because
it's not concerns. It's just saying
two interception-worthy plays. That's where you're going to reach for 2 interception-worthy plays. Every quarterback has that, David. Every quarterback in a single game has that. Patrick Mahomes is having that type of season now.
I'm just saying there's not a single play, and I'm being dead serious. There is not a single play that you can bring me that Brock Purdy has that hasn't had the receiver or the running back make that play for him. Or if he does make a play, the receiver is wide open. Like, you just can't. And Joe Montana has a lot of plays to where we look at those and be like, that's a career highlight play. I haven't seen that for Brock Purdy yet. And that's all I'm saying. Like, to bring Joe Montana in, I wouldn't have done it. I wouldn't have done it.
Do y'all like brisket?
I'm okay with brisket, yeah.
Dan, you like brisket?
Not that much.
Okay. Dave, how do you cook a brisket? Typically, how are those cooked?
I mean, you in a smoker, right?
Smoker, low and slow, right?
Yep.
Low and slow. Okay. Expectations need to be like briskets. Let's put this expectation low and slow until he shows us that he can win big games. Because right now, he beat the Cowboys, who really,
Dak beat the Cowboys.
Really, we beat ourselves in that game. And I'm not saying that Brock Purdy can't one day be an all-time great quarterback. That's a potential, just in the same way that I walk across the street to go to my work every day. I might get hit today walking across the street. It could happen, but it probably won't. But it could happen. Brock Purdy could be a great quarterback. But until he starts showing us big game wins, and before we start talking about Hall of Fame quarterback comparisons, let's just keep it low and slow. Let's just let it develop. He's played 13 games, 14, not even a whole season yet. Let's keep it low and slow, and let's see what he does over time. But for us already right now, I mean, that's a lot.
Also, we like to talk about, the 49ers have never lost a game while Brock Purdy's been a quarterback and has started and finished the game. The 49ers haven't lost a game since C-Mac has joined the team. I mean, that, to me, that's the reason for San Francisco's success at this point. Like Daniel said, I'm going to be different in who I bring in. C-Mac is obviously the choice, but I'm going to say the biggest success for me has been CJ Stroud and the Houston Texans. Only because, I've been really impressed what I've seen from him so far. I mean, we always talk about Ohio State quarterbacks never panning out. Those who graduate from Ohio State, I should say, and have played big for them. You don't see a lot of success there. CJ Stroud is 4th in the league in passing yards with 1,200. He has 6 touchdowns, no interceptions, and Houston's 2-2. DeMeco Ryans has been a godsend to Houston. After management has just really screwed over a bunch of black coaches in the past couple of years and have really screwed over that fan base. I'm happy for CJ Stroud and for Houston and the way that they're playing. You no longer can look at them at the schedule and be like, oh, this is a cakewalk. They will fight you for 60 minutes. Now, unless you're a really, really good team, if you're if you're the Cowboys, if you're Buffalo, if you're Miami, you'll be able to steamroll them. But I'm talking about those fringe teams who are trying to make a playoffs. And Tennessee doesn't look to be extremely consistent. Indy isn't very consistent. Houston, even Jacksonville, has not looked very consistent so far this season. They've been very up and down. So Houston could be a spoiler for some football teams, is all I'm saying. And I'm just very happy about how he's looked so far.
Yeah, so far he's looked good. But let me ask you a question, David.
Okay.
You like brisket? No, I'm just kidding. But he's played 4 games in this league.
Yes. Yes.
Let's kind of.
Yeah.
He has. I mean, he's looked good.
I've expected
Savage.
him
What is you thinking that whenever David gets praised to a quarterback, he's putting him in the Hall of Fame?
I'm not saying that.
He's just saying he's a success right now. But you're going to the extreme and saying, let's wait, let's have expectations. What are you, Stephen A?
No, all I'm saying is
he's giving the kid his props right now.
We're talking about the biggest success stories in the league, and we're bringing up CJ Stroud.
Did you not think that him and Anthony Richardson were going to be a bust when they entered the league? I know a lot of people did.
I'm not saying him
that being able to put together 4 games is pretty good considering.
I agree. I'm not saying that he has not performed well. I'm saying the question was, who was the biggest success story in the league this far? And we said we're not all going to agree on McCaffrey. So I would imagine that we
don't agree. It's we want to give different answers. Right. We want to spread the pie around.
Number 1, number 2, number 3. And the fact that
I feel like that's what that is.
Yeah. Honestly, I think that is.
I feel like
that's
1,
2, and 3.
1, 2, and 3.
It's
Yours
C-Mac.
is obviously C-Mac for sure. It's number 1. But for us to give different answers, it's 2 and 3.
Well, yeah, no, I'm saying in terms of most deserving. I don't think that CJ Stroud is the third most, special player.
No, but in terms of expectations and what they were able to bring this year, it is.
I'd say Tua, Tyreek. I mean, either one of those could work.
I think the reason why we don't go with them is because I don't know what you. Yeah, we knew that if Tua can stay healthy, that's what he can be. I guess
the question should have been, what is the biggest surprise for us this season?
Yes.
Yes. I'm cool with that. But the best players so far.
Yeah.
Then that means C-Mac should not be on this list then. If it's the biggest surprise, because for me,
right,
C-Mac was going to do what C-Mac was going to do.
If it's biggest surprises, then my pick's Brandon Aubrey. One of the greatest kickers in NFL history. I mean, apparently so. Let's just draft soccer players.
Definitely a surprise.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I thought we were saying who are the biggest success stories, and we're trotting out a 2-2 quarterback. I'm like, whoa.
Well, you know what? I'm still going to support CJ Stroud in that conversation only because I thought Houston was going to be 0-4 and
stinkers.
that CJ Stroud was going to be looking like Justin Fields.
Sure. Yeah.
So
he's done good. I mean, he is for 4 games. I'll tell you what, he's so far the best rookie quarterback in this class.
Yeah.
Easily. So far. Now,
yeah.
2-2.
2-2. Yeah.
Personally, I'd rather keep Dak than CJ, but
you're going to have a lot of people in Dallas who would prefer CJ.
Well, a lot of people in Dallas are psychotic. I live here. I know.
That's right.
Some days I might be one of them.
Yeah. So here we go. We're finally at this point of the show. Pick 'em for week 3. So last week I was 11-5. So overall in the season, I'm 42-22. Daniel is 12-4 last week. So he's 41-23. He's only a game back.
I closed the gap.
So he did close the gap because I think week 1 you went 8-8.
Yeah, that's true.
So Daniel's really stepped up in the last couple of weeks. But here we go. First game, Washington versus Chicago.
I don't think this needs to be a conversation. I really don't think it needs to be a conversation. Washington for sure.
Where's it at?
I think it's in Chicago.
Don't do it, Savage. Don't do it. You can't trust them. You can't trust Chicago.
I'm going to go Chicago. I'm going Chicago.
Ah, gosh. Because at least Washington has a competent defense.
Justin Fields showed me something last game.
That he can throw an interception and to win the game? Yeah, I
agree. I have him starting in one of my leagues this week. So
that's why. Okay, that's why. That's disqualified then.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going with Washington.
Fine, I'll go Washington. Fine.
There you go.
Just because Justin Fields did look good against the worst defense in football in Denver. Washington has a better defense than they do, and so
let's ride.
I just feel bad for Justin Fields. It's a
I do too.
He's been in.
Terrible.
All righty. Next, Jacksonville versus Buffalo.
Is this in England?
Oh, that's a great question. I don't know if it's in England or not. I don't think so. Oh, yeah, it is in England. Yeah, you're right. It is in England. In the playoffs, I can't trust him. But in the regular season, I'll give him a shot. I'm going to go with Buffalo.
I'm going to go with Buffalo, too.
I'll go Jacksonville.
Great.
All right, next game. Houston versus Atlanta. And they are in Atlanta. At Atlanta. Oh, I'm going to keep riding the CJ Stroud train. I'm going to go with Houston here.
Give me them dirty birds.
Okay, so he's got Atlanta.
I'm gonna go with Houston.
All right. Okay, so now Detroit versus Carolina. This is easy to me. This is Detroit. Detroit all the way. Is that it? Did everyone say yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Detroit.
For sure.
Okay. Indianapolis versus Tennessee. This one's hard because I don't know which Tennessee team I'm going to get.
And that's the question. Which one are you going to get? Are you going to get the one that the thing that bothers me about Indy is their defense. But what bothers me about Tennessee is their offense. But yeah. I'm gonna ride with Anthony Richardson and the Colts this game.
Give me King Henry.
Yeah, I'm also gonna go with Tennessee. I mean, Anthony Richardson did surprise me with how good he played, especially against the Rams last week. But I think to me it's all about coaching, and I trust Vrabel more than other coaches. I just do. So I'm gonna go with Tennessee. Next one, I feel like this is another easy one. Miami versus the Giants. We already know what this is.
Miami.
This is Miami. They might score 80 in this game.
They might. They just might.
All right, now we got New Orleans versus New England.
Do I have to pick?
Yeah.
Can it be a 0-0 tie? Is that how this thing gonna?
They both of their offenses are terrible. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go with New Orleans. I'm not confident in it, but I'm gonna go with New Orleans. I think that they're able to pull this one out.
Yeah,
I agree.
All right, so now, actually, this one would have been a good game if Pittsburgh had an offense, but they don't. So it's going to be Baltimore versus Pittsburgh. I'm going to go Baltimore.
Baltimore, all the way.
Yep, I'm with you.
Okay, now we have in the next game Cincinnati versus Arizona.
I'm only doing this because they're not healthy. I'm taking Arizona. I don't want to do it, but based on what I've seen, based on where Joe Burrow is at health-wise, I have to take Arizona. I have to.
Is Burrow playing? Have they made a ruling on him yet?
Let me check real quick, but I'm assuming that he is playing.
Gosh.
Savage, what I'm looking at, if this could help you in any way, I'm looking at how Arizona can run the ball, coupled with the fact that Joshua Dobbs has not played terrible as being the starter, completing 70% of his passes, no turnovers, and just the way that the defense has been performing for Cincinnati this year, the fact that they can't run the ball any lick, and Joe Burrow is compromised. I have to go with Arizona here.
I'll go Arizona too. That quarterback, man, I think he'd look good in the Bay Area too. Old Dobbs. I think Dobbs and Purdy,
their play
Dobbs
styles
and Purdy might be the same guy.
Their play styles are very similar.
I think Joshua Dobbs and Joe Montana are comparable as well.
The 1981 Joe Montana. Let me clarify. I meant the 1981 Joe Montana.
Okay. I'll go with that.
You know what I mean?
I'll go with that.
1981 Joe Montana wasn't carrying anyone.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you're right. No. I agree with that. You're right. 80.
I should have said 1981 Joe Montana because that's what I meant.
That's all right. Don't worry.
That's what I meant.
I'll put that in the description.
Yeah.
So people know. But I'm also going with Arizona. Just hard, I feel bad. All right, Philly versus the Rams.
I mean, I'm starting Puka.
I'm also starting Puka. I'm going to go with the Rams here.
Amazing.
I'm going to go with the Rams here.
You think they're going to be had?
Yeah, I think this is the game that they're had. The Rams offense looks pretty good, and especially against that Philly defense, I think they're going to eat. And I think that now that you're going against Aaron Donald, I don't think that they can quarterback sneak their way to a victory.
Where are they at?
They're at LA, I think.
Yeah, they're in LA.
Yeah.
They're in LA.
Where are you going, Daniel?
You know what? I think I'm going with the Rams. I just think defensively they're a better defensive team. They throw the ball a lot better. They're not terrible in the run. They're 18th in the league rushing.
They're better than they've been in a while.
And the thing that I do love about what Sean McVay is able to do is he's able to get his receivers open. That's what he can do. He can scheme his receivers to where, like Puka, he's looking to be if he can be an All-Pro this year, They might make him an All-Pro this year based on the way that he's played.
To me, once they get Cooper Kupp back,
Oh my gosh!
I think
Can you
that's this week.
imagine? Yeah, I think
he's
Cooper
back.
Kupp might come back this
if
week.
he's back this week, then yeah, I'm going Rams.
I'm going Philly.
All right.
Yeah.
Philadelphia. All right. Now we got the New York Jets versus Denver.
I'm going to take the Jets. I'm going to take the Jets. Zach Wilson showed 1% of something, and that defense is still really good. I believe that they'll do enough to Russell Wilson to phase him, to give Zach Wilson opportunities. They just need to run the ball and work off play action. That's what they have to do. That's where he had success.
Broncos country. Let's ride.
Yeah, I'm also going with the Broncos. I mean, we like to talk about, them being able to get under Russell Wilson's skin. But here's the thing. Russell Wilson has 9 touchdowns to only 2 interceptions this season. And averaging 9.2 yards a throw. He's playing good football right now. As good as Zach Wilson played against Kansas City, I just don't think he's going to be able to do it again. Now, maybe he'll be able to do it against Denver. Maybe Denver makes him look like an All-Pro. I don't know. I have to believe it. I have to see it to believe it.
That's why I'm saying it, is because of how bad Denver's defense has looked.
Yeah. I think you're asking a lot, because I think what the Jets have to ask Zach Wilson, he says, hey, get us to 17. That's what you're asking him for every single week. I think this is the week that you're going to be like, hey, we need you to get 24. And I don't think he could do that.
I don't know. So they did a really good job on Patrick Mahomes.
Sure. But I'm still going.
They picked him off 3 times.
Did, but also, when have you ever known Zach Wilson to consistently not turn the ball over? And he still did. Just didn't throw any receptions. I think he does this week. Next game, Kansas City versus Minnesota.
Got KC.
I got KC too. Minnesota's defense is atrocious. Mahomes, Kelsey, they're going to have a field day.
I'm going to skip the Sunday night game. We'll say that one last. Green Bay versus Las Vegas on Monday night.
I'm going Green Bay.
Yeah, I'm going Green Bay as well. I like what I'm seeing from Jordan Love. I don't like what I'm seeing from Las Vegas. So I'm going Green Bay.
Mm-hmm.
All right, to conclude the show, Sunday Night Football in San Francisco. Dallas versus the 49ers. Who do you guys have?
I have the San Francisco 49ers winning this game. I just believe that the red zone issues, until Dallas figures out how to address it, how to fix it, I'm not going to assume that they're going to fix it against one of the best defenses in the league. And that's kind of why I'm kind of going that way. I think even though C-Mac hasn't done it against Dallas, I believe there's a time for everything. And I do believe C-Mac, Debo, Brock Purdy, they'll put it all together this week, score more than 20 points in this game, and kind of not expose the Cowboys' run defense, but take advantage of it. And coupled with the fact that Brandon Aubrey's not going to win you the game by kicking 8 field goals, I'm going with San Francisco.
I got Cowboys by 10, as in losing by 10.
Oh,
Cowboys losing by 10. I'm picking San Francisco to win. And I hate doing that, but I'm trying to win and pick them. So yeah, I'm not going to pick with my heart.
I am the biggest, as you guys both know, the biggest Dak Prescott supporter. I'm probably one of the most optimistic, and you could say delusional, but I think even objective Cowboy fans you'll meet. I'm going with San Francisco, and I don't think it's close. just from the concerns I have with Dallas's run defense and the way that C-Mac and this offense has looked running the football in the past 4 weeks, I don't think that the defense is going to be able to hold this team now that they've had a full offseason with C-Mac in their offense and a full offseason with Brock Purdy at that QB1 spot. I just think that this is going to be too much for Dallas to overcome. But yeah, that Arizona game really messed me up. Like that really shook my confidence in this Cowboys defense to stop the run. And even though, like Daniel said, New England really didn't even try, but again, seeing how the 49ers run the football, I just have no confidence. I just don't. This is a game to where for the Dallas Cowboys, if you want to be a real contender, if you want people to actually believe in who you are, you have to win this game or at least come close. You have to put up a fight. But we got to see it. We have to see it. We can't hope for it anymore. These are the games that you have to show up for. Even if it's week 5. These are the games that you have to win. Super Bowl winning teams win these games even in the regular season. So we'll see what they do. But that's going to do it for us here on Double Take, an NFL podcast. Fantastic episode. A lot of great stuff. Savage, thank you so much for joining us on it. It's always just a blast and a great time when you come on and you talk football with us.
Thanks for having me on, fellas.
Daniel, we know we gave you a hard time today about Joe Montana, but don't worry, it's 81.
81
Water,
Joe.
81 Joe.
81 Joe.
It's all love, Daniel. It's all love.
Yeah. So, again, I'll make sure to put that in the description. But it's been a fantastic week. Hope you guys have a great weekend watching football. God bless. We'll see you guys next week.
See ya.